Okay, real quick, Dr. Paul, thanks for being here. And I'm just going to ID myself as a strong national defense, pro-free enterprise, pro-life, pro-marriage, strong traditional value, conservative who happens to be a Republican. Now, I say that to make sure you understand I'm not single issue, but I'm going to talk about a particularly contentious issue. It happens to do with the State House. We've got a personal friend of mine who's a representative that tied on some amendments to some very insignificant bills, and they tied on the amendment to make sure ultrasound was required for women that are considering abortion. I am pro-life, but that isn't my single issue. I'm going to talk to the tactics of it. You are trying to be a legislator, not an executive. Representative Moore is being absolutely pilloried in the press right now, but I think he made the right call to put people on the record as to what he's going to vote for. Now, you can put abortion to the side, but I'd like to see or ask, are you going to take the heat for doing those tactical things that you have to do in the legislature to try to move the ball forward? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Absolutely. I'm not afraid not to be elected. I'm not afraid of, look at what I did last week. I went and supported Jim Bunning when everybody wants to kick Jim Bunning. And not one U.S. senator stood up for Bunning. And what he asked for was so simple. We've already allocated the money. It's sitting here in a pot. Let's not add to the debt. Let's just use the money already allocated. Not one senator stood up for him, and I think that's wrong. And we stood up for him. We had a rally. Mongiardo protested at his office, and we heard they were doing it. We turned out more people than Mongiardo, and our people all spontaneously were chanting, "Pay go, while Mongiardo was speaking. It was great. But I'm not afraid. I don't need the job. I'm not going to come and tell people I'm going to bring you a project. In fact, I purposely go everywhere in the state and say I'm not bringing you anything. So I'm not really trying that hard to get elected by pandering. I'm not afraid not to be elected, and I think you'll be pleased. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. You know, that's been one of the problems with both parties. You know, the folks come home from Washington and they promise pork and talk about all the pork they brought back home. We're going to have to be willing to recognize that that's not helping our country, and that's both parties. Go ahead, sir. Your question.
First of all praises to God. Your father, during the election, I loved all of the things that he said about this country and how to stop the fighting, blah, blah. He's a peacemaker. The Republican Party wasn't listening to him. I know you listening to your dad. I hope you take his advice. Number one, put God first. Number two, always pray to this country. Don't be afraid to pray.
Sir, we have lots of people that are waiting to ask questions.
I understand.
So please get to the question.
I understand.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Martin Luther King was a Republican. He was killed. And we have an armed forces here that wouldn't protect him. It was the Grassroots campaign for poor, and then I don't see, doesn't look like too many poor people here.
Okay.
How do you,
Thank you.
how do you pull this country together, or wherever you're going to lead, the poor, the middle class, and the upper class? How do you do that? Because they're not here.
Well, I think it's a good question. I'm not sure I would say the poor is not here, the middle class is not here. I think most of us in the Tea Party movement are very much middle class. But what I would say is that how you pull people together is that I would say that what you tell those who are trying to work their way up the socioeconomic ladder is that big government's not your friend. Big government steals your wealth, and the people who are least able to afford inflation. Let's say that all this spending and all this debt that we've accumulated, let's say that next year inflation becomes 20%. If you're wealthy, you can afford inflation because you have excess money. But if you make $20,000 a year and you've got 2 or 3 kids to feed, and the price of milk goes up to $5 a gallon, you're hurting. Or if you're retired and you're not particularly well off and you're on a fixed income, you're hurt significantly by your savings being taken away through inflation or by your expenditures, because they're a significant part. So what I would tell many of those people is, come to our party because big government's not your friend.
Good, thank you. Folks, I appreciate the comments, but, and this is not directed at anybody, but we cannot make comments or speeches. This is for questions, and I'm asking you to get to the question because we only have a few minutes left, and if you don't, we'll go to the next person. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for coming, Dr. Paul. As everyone's aware, the K through 12 education system, public education system, is broken and needs to be fixed to a large degree. And I know you want to eliminate the Department of Education, and you don't have a direct vote as to how things happen locally. But I would like to know what your position is on parental choice and the ability of any parent to take their kid to any school they need to be educated the way they feel proper.
Good question.
I'm absolutely in favor of school choice. The money is yours. It's your tax money. I say attach the money to the child, like a voucher, a piece of paper. The child's parents get to take that paper anywhere they want, including religious schools, because it's your money. It's not the government's money.
Good.